Okay, it is 9 o'clock. I will call to order the meeting of Tuesday, July the 16th. We have an agenda before us. I have one addition I would like to add, and that'd be authorization to attend a meeting at the Ledge on July the 2nd, 2019. Is there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing as not, Councillor Christie.
I'll move the agenda as adopted.
Have a motion to move the agenda as amended. All those in favor? That is carried. We pre-circulated the minutes of the June 25th meeting. Are there any errors or omissions? Councillor King.
I would move those minutes to be accepted as presented.
Motion's been made to accept the minutes as presented. All those in favor? And that is carried. We will now move on to 5.1.1. Bradley. Welcome. Anytime you're ready.
Morning, Mr. Reeve and members of council. This morning we're bringing you an RFD for development of an undeveloped road allowance, Range Road 254, for 0.8 kilometers going north of Highway 583 and 806 junction. A little background on this. Artis Explorations requested the development of this to put a battery site down the road. So they'll need to get traffic in and out of that, probably 10 to 15 trucks a day once the battery's up and running. So that is the purpose of it getting upgraded. Artis we will enter into a road use agreement with Artis. They will be responsible for all roadway maintenance while they have that site there. They're responsible for grading, graveling outside of our standard kind of 3-year plan. So winter plowing, they're responsible for. The development of it, we'll come up with an agreement with them. They want it at least 8.6 meters wide, which would put us to a C road. They want that for the traffic going back and forth in case those trucks pass. The purpose of this battery site is to join existing battery sites already together, pipeline most of that in. Eventually, a lot of all these batteries will be piped somewhere. I know they're in talks with a pipeline company up by Wimborne about piping majority of this out, which then will reduce impact on roadways with truck traffic. But until they get all the batteries in sight, they'll still need to truck it out. So a little discussion on the road. We had WSP do an engineering study on this. There's 3 existing centerline culverts. They appear to be in good working condition. We won't have to replace those. There's some surface erosion further to the north. We'll put that part of the agreement that they have to mitigate any erosion along the ditch. A lot of sand material in there. Also recommended that we put local traffic only signs as the road is not a through road. It ends basically, I think, around the 1.6 click area there, enters into a coulee. So they will adhere to all our Kneehill County design standards for low grade road. And then we'll consider that amended road use agreement with them so that they cover all costs of taking care of that road. The cost and funding of this road will be responsibility of Artis as the developer, 100% no cost to Kneehill County. If there is land agreements that need to be done with adjacent landowners, we will get those agreements with the landowners, but it will be the responsibility of Artis to fulfill any requirements with adjacent landowners. We're not thinking they're going to have to go outside of that road 20-meter road allowance currently. So So some of the options for council is that council would approve the development of 254 north of 583 for approximately 0.8, or that council declines the request and receives this as information. Our recommended motion would be that council moves to approve the development to the county standards of the undeveloped road allowance located on 254 north of 583 for approximately 0.8 kilometers with all costs of the project incurred by Artis Exploration, and that they enter into an amended road use agreement to be completed, requiring Artis to undertake all required roadway maintenance.
Are there any questions for our operations director? Glenn?
It was always my dream to have that road built all of 6 miles. Maybe you could get them to build the 6 and we'll look after it.
Get them to build it from the other end.
They, Councilor Keever, so they did do a little stretch from it would be Kurt Bauer's driveway going up the hill. They have another battery up there that they just kind of touched that road up. It was already a gravel road going up, but they did clean it up a little bit to get some better drainage. But I think at this moment, I don't think they want to enter into some of the AEP approvals or timelines that they might get stuck with through that valley, so.
Are there any other questions for Brad? What's council's wishes here? Councilor McGee.
I'd like to move that council approve the development to county standards of the undeveloped road allowance located at Range Road 25-4 north of Highway 583 for approximately 0.8 kilometers, with all costs to be the project incurred by Artis Exploration Limited, and that an amended road use agreement be completed requiring Artis Exploration Limited to undertake all required roadway maintenance.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there any discussion to that motion? I have a question for you, Brad. We've done some preliminary engineering on that road, have we?
Mr. Reeve, yes, we had WSP go out. We have that through the undeveloped road allowance policy. We do hire a WSP to go out and look at any assessments or issues that may come up. There's no AEP issues in there, Alberta Environment Parks, no waterway issues. With these cross-line pipes that are already in there existing, that are in good shape, there's a defined road there already. It just needs to get straightened out and then deal with some of the erosion that happens on the the east side of the road at the north end, so.
And those costs will be transferred over to Artis?
Those costs have already been paid by Artis, so before we go out and do that engineering, we receive that check from Artis for $750. We hire WSP to go out there and do that assessment. Basically, those recommendations, follow those conditions 1 through 5 are recommendations from WSP.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Keever.
So if there's land that needs to be purchased before building this road, is that, we're responsible for doing that?
Councilor Keever, there'd be no road, there'd be no purchase of the land, whether there'd be backsloping agreement, something like that. We'll go do that for Artis, but they'll pay for that fee if there's any backsloping. Right now, we don't see the need for that. We're not quite sure where they're not sure where they're putting their battery yet, on one side or the other of that road. So they're in agreements with the 2 landowners along there right now, so.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I will call. We have a motion before us. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is 5.3.1 Redesignation Bylaw. Welcome, Ms. Hazelton, and anytime you are ready.
Good morning, Mr. Reeve, members of council. We received a request to redesignate some lands, and that has now been renamed as Bylaw 1799. Heather Pleva, Douglas Dow, and Dan Pleva have applied to redesignate approximately 2.11 acres of the southeast of 63223, west of the 4th, from the agriculture district to ag business. And as you're aware, there are neighbors to our next door neighbors. The subject parcel is bound by Highway 583 on the south and is located just west of Highway 21. This is a 10.18 acre parcel. The portion of lands to be rezoned is north and west of the developed yard site. There's an image on the bylaw that has been attached to your package. Trees screen the site completely on the west, north, and east sides. The applicants would like to construct commercial greenhouses with a parking area on the south end of the proposed redesignated area. No subdivision is proposed, and below are the potential uses that can be introduced on the lands that have been redesignated as ag business. So council options are to move first reading of proposed bylaw 1799. Again, that gets it into the queue. Council move to schedule the public hearing for bylaw 1799 for August 20th at 11 a.m. for the purpose of amending land use bylaw 1773 for the redesignation of a portion of the southeast of 63223 from ag district to ag business. Council move to schedule the public hearing for an alternate date, or council move to request more information prior to proceeding with first reading. Our recommendation is the first reading and to schedule the public hearing for August 20th at 11 a.m.
Thank you, Barb. Is there any questions for Barb? What are council's wishes here? Councilor McGee?
I move first reading of proposed bylaw 1799 for the purpose of amending land use bylaw 1773 by redesignating a portion of the southeast 63223 west of 4 from the agriculture district to the agriculture business district.
Thank you. We have a motion before us. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. We should probably schedule a public hearing. Councillor Penner.
I'll move to schedule a public hearing for bylaw 1799 as per section 606 of the Municipal Government Act to be held on August 20th at 11 a.m. 2019.
Thank you. We have a motion before us to schedule a public hearing. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. Oh, just smoking along here. Next agenda item 5.4.1. Okay, let the record record Councillor Penner has recused herself from the discussion, and we may come and get you after we're done. Okay, 5.4.1, welcome Shelby, and anytime you are ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Reeve and members of council. The request for decision that I have for you today is the Swalwell Community Hall mowing request. It's being brought forward because a letter was submitted by Swalwell Community Association requesting that the grass at the Swalwell Community Hall be mowed by Kneehill County. So some discussion around this. There's currently no policy or fee structure in place to accommodate for public lands mowing requests as they relate to community halls. The county does currently mow 4 private cemeteries within the county boundaries for an annual fee of $200. The additional cost of adding this mowing to the current public lands hamlet mowing schedule would be an increase of approximately $1,983.25 annually based on the cost of labor, time spent mowing, equipment usage, and fuel costs. Some benefits around this is that it would increase level of service for the community of Swalwell by mowing additional sites within the hamlet, and by including mowing maintenance of the Swalwell Community Hall grounds. This contributes to promoting the rural way of life by ensuring the community spaces are cared for. Disadvantages: this is not a service that is currently offered to other hamlet community association halls. There is no policy or fee structure in place to accommodate for this additional maintenance. To accommodate for this instance of additional mowing would not greatly increase our mowing costs, but if this became a trend, the scope of the public lands mowing program would be changed and potentially lead to more significant increased costs and possibility of more staff, more equipment, and increased fuel costs. Cost source of funding for this would be from the parks budget under public lands mowing. And council options are: 1, council moves to decline the request to include mowing of the Swalwell Community Hall grounds as part of the regular hamlet mowing schedule. 2, that council moves to approve the mowing of the Swalwell Community Hall grounds and to include it with the regular hamlet mowing schedule. Or 3, council moves to receive as information. And attachments include a letter from the Swalwell Community Association outlining their mowing request. And recommended motion is that council move to decline the request to include mowing of the Swalwell Community Hall grounds as part of the regular hamlet mowing schedule. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions for the presenter? What are council's wishes? Guess the way I read this, if we were to do it, it would cost roughly $200 or $2,000 extra for the season.
In there, yes, yeah, based on our estimated costs that we currently have in place.
And how many times were you looking at mowing?
We mow our hamlets on a rotation of every 2 to 3 weeks, weather dependent. So it would
Okay.
be approximately 10 times in there per season.
Oh, okay. All right. What's council's, Councilor King?
This may be relatively flat ground, but it is a slippery slope. In light of the fact, if we agree to this one, I'm sure there'll be other requests of similar nature. And that will dramatically potentially increase our costs of mowing. So I would move that we decline the request to include the mowing of the Swalwell Community Hall grounds as part of our regular hamlet mowing schedule.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Is there any discussion to that motion? I think even if we were to offer the mowing at cost, I think we would still end up being in an issue with staff, and we would lose our rotation if this continued, so I would support your motion. Is there any other discussion to that? Councilor Kiever?
There's lots of custom guys out mowing grass, you know, I mean, I'm sure that would take this job on for the same money as what we would get out of it. And if we take this one, how many other community halls are we gonna have in the future that want the same thing?
Councilor King?
Just to comment back, Glenn, I don't believe there's any intent of them to pay for this. This is a free service that they're requesting. And so a custom mowing guy probably wouldn't do it for the same as what we would, which would be nothing. But I don't think, if we added this hall and then we add the next one, we add the next one, then we add mowers, we add staff, it becomes, to maintain our mowing rotation, it gets more and more difficult. And so I can't see how we could do this, because we will get other requests, absolutely.
Yep. I mean, I would even request my yard mowed this way.
I'm right behind you.
Okay, so we have a motion before us. Is there any more discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. And the motion was to decline the request. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Shelby. Okay, we will now move on to 5.5.1, the proposed hen bylaw. Welcome, Deb and Barb. And anytime you're ready.
Okay, on June 18th, 2019, the Committee of the Whole discussed the potential to allow hens in hamlets, ex-hamlets and country residential properties. Hens are currently prohibited on these subject properties by the Land Use Bylaw 1773. The committee did direct administration to come back with a proposed draft hen bylaw. It should be noted that changes to the Animal Control Bylaw, the Land Use Bylaw, and the Master Rates Bylaw will also be necessary to ensure consistency to avoid any potential of legal challenge. Administration has created a draft hen bylaw. The bylaw would allow for a minimum of 2, a maximum of 4 hens on properties located within a hamlet district, ex-hamlet district, and a country residential district, as we were directed through the Cal meeting. A one-time license fee would be required with an annual renewal. The fee would not be every year, we would just need to know they still have them. The applicant would be responsible to ensure that hens under their control do not become a nuisance as defined by this proposed bylaw. The bylaw also outlines the responsibilities of a licensed hen owner, as well as setback requirements to adjacent residents. Amendments to the Animal Control Bylaw being considered also to ensure consistency between the two bylaws. And this bylaw falls under the jurisdiction of Protective Services. So changed the scope of this bylaw from defined hamlets of Huxley, Torrington, Wimborne, and Sunny Slope to a wider scope of hamlets, ex-hamlets, and country residential. And then they would have to remove the restrictions on fowl and refer to the Land Use Bylaw and the hen bylaw. The Master Rates Bylaw would require a licensing fee to be added for hens. The Land Use Bylaw also requires amendments in regards to hens, and as such would require notification and a public hearing as legislated. The other two bylaws would not require that, but land use is a bigger deal when we do that. So administration would like to use this opportunity to recommend additional changes or clarifications to the Land Use Bylaw. Therefore, it is recommended that we bring the proposed Land Use Bylaw amendments to a committee of the whole for further consideration prior to approving the hen bylaw and the revised Animal Control Bylaw. So options are the council directed administration to bring to a committee of the draft hen bylaw, Animal Control Bylaw, and the Land Use Bylaw to consider proposed amendments. Council direct administration to bring back other options under further direction by council.
Thank you, I think. Is there any discussion, comments, concerns, questions? Is anybody prepared to put a motion forward? Councillor McGee.
I move we direct administration to bring to a committee of the whole the Land Use Bylaw to consider proposed amendments as well as the proposed amendments to the Animal Control Bylaw and the new draft hen bylaw.
Thank you very much. We have a motion before us. Is there any discussion to the said motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We will now move along to new business. 8.1, youth sponsorship. And who's taking this one on? Mike, you're taking it on, so anytime you're ready.
Okay. During the 2019 operating budget deliberations, Council approved $10,000 to be budgeted for under the youth sponsorship policy. As of June 26, 2019, administration, or I guess the county, has granted $9,800 through that policy. So basically, the amount that's put in budget has been used as of that point in year. Since then, we've received 4 requests from the Three Hills Soccer Association requesting youth sponsorship for the teams to travel to provincials. Administration also received a team request for the Acme Red Sox U11 to travel to provincials. So 5 teams at $900 each is $4,500. These requests will put the youth sponsorship account over budget. So under the policy, It's stated that the budget for the youth sponsorship program will be allocated annually during the budget process. Any applications over the budget amount will be approved at council's discretion. So that's why this item is before you today. The question that we're posing is how council would like to deal with these applications, but as well any more that we may receive. We've got several months left in the year as to what direction we might want to take there. We are able to transfer some money throughout the budget. So there's a discretionary account set up so council doesn't have to use a contingency fund. That account has a balance of $96,000, so we could transfer money from there to this one. The options is to transfer $4,300 to youth sponsorship account with the funds to come from the 97-27700 and have all future applications brought to council. We could transfer that money and deny all future applications. We could deny these applications and all future ones if council didn't want to put any further funding into that area of the budget. And we could transfer a larger amount into the budget to account for these and future applications. So again, we're just looking for council's direction on not just these, but on what you want to see us do with these requests in the future, given that budget line has been expended.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Keever.
The 5 teams that are going, like, is there 4 soccer teams and 1 ball team, or what? How did you arrive at 5 teams?
It's in the package.
Yeah, so that's correct.
Councillor Penner.
My opinion, the youth is our future in Kneehill County, and I would like to continue to support them even though we've spent our budget. I'm just wondering if we should approve a larger amount so that they're not all coming back to us. Just, what's everybody thinking?
Councillor Christie.
I agree with the support for the youth for sure, and I just don't know what the number is to I don't want an open blank check, but what value? They should be almost done competitions before our next budget, are they not? Or where's sports gonna be?
These specific sports should be. Then, of course, there's any other number of things that might come up in the fall or beyond.
And I agree that sponsoring our youth is something that we should be doing. But we all kind of sat in on the conference call this morning, and we know what's coming ahead for us. And we did have a budget. Have we exceeded that budget in previous years? Do you know, Mr. Hogan?
Off the top of my head, I don't know that answer, but we could find that out.
Okay. Councillor McGee.
I'm tending in that same direction. We have a budget. We have to stick to the budget. We have concerns of keeping our budget as far as bringing in a proper income for us to hold our budget. So I agree. Supporting the youth is awesome, but I think some of these youth might be repeat people being sponsored as well. Not that the team is specifically, but the youth participating in it. I just see that our budget's spent and it's spent.
Councillor Penner.
I don't feel, even if they are repeat residents, that we should be looking at that. These people are representing us as Kneehill County. Maybe we just have to stick with the 4,300 transfer amount, or the 45, whichever 4,300. But youth is such a valuable thing in our county, so I think we could find that amount. I know times are tough right now, but I think we should be able to find that amount of money.
I think the request made by administration was to whether or not we amend our budget to allow this to happen, or what amount we want to amend the budget for. So are we looking at the number being 4,300? Or where are we at there? And we don't have a motion yet, so if somebody would like to make a motion, and then we can have further discussion. Councillor Penner?
I'll make the motion that we transfer 4,300 to the youth sponsorship account, and that all future applications be brought to council individually.
Councillor McGee?
I'm concerned about the math. 5 times 9, 4,500? Oh, of course. Sorry, thank you.
Councillor King?
I guess I'm gonna, I am a big fan of youth, but I kind of come down a little bit on the side of Fay on this one, and I guess just like the mowing of grass and other things, at what point in time do we say no? And at what point in time do we say that we established a budget and that number is the number? And I'm a little torn because I'm like you, Deb. I really like to support the youth, but at the same time, I understand the fiscal responsibility side of the question. And so if we were to support this request, how many more are we going to see before the end of the year? And at what point in time does this budget item stop growing? Much like if we add one community hall to the mowing schedule, at what point does that stop growing for us? So we do have to be a little bit careful, and I would look forward to maybe a much broader conversation around youth sponsorship in our coming budget deliberations. But this one troubles me a little bit because I want to be on both sides of this question. I want to be fiscally responsible and say we have a budget, and I at the same time want to support youth. So I am a little torn here. So
I certainly agree with your dilemma. I am also in that same dilemma. We'll do 43 this meeting, and who knows how much in the next meeting. But we do have a motion in front of us. Is there any more discussion to the motion that's in front of us? Doesn't look like it. I will call the question. The motion states to approve a transfer of 4,300 to the youth sponsorship accounts with funds coming from the number, and have all future applications brought to council individually. I will call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is defeated. Is there another motion forthcoming? We do have some options here. Well, seeing as how there is no other motion coming forward, are we good to move on with our next agenda item? Okay, we will move on to 8.2, board and committee appointments. And Mr. Hogan, you taking this one?
I am. So-
Anytime you're ready.
Yep, so the policy that's before you as part of this item is a list of committees on which members of council serve. So at the June 25th, 2019 council meeting, council appointed Reeve Whitstock, Councillor King, Councillor Christie, and Councillor Hugo as an alternate to the Red Deer County and Kneehill County Intermunicipal Development Plan Committee. At the same council meeting, council approved third reading to bylaw 1797, being a bylaw to adopt the town of Trochu, Kneehill County Intermunicipal Development Plan. So the bylaw number is now referenced under the committee, and the policy is attached for council's consideration in the board and committee appointments with the updated committee appointments bylaws in red. So this is basically taking an existing policy in light of changes council's recently made, or additions, I guess, would be more accurate than changes, just updating the policy and asking that council approve the amended policy.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. What's council's wishes? Councilor Christie.
I'll make the motion to approve policy 3-3 for board committee appointments as presented.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. And 8.3, Mr. Hogan, Community Discovery Night.
We've received an invitation to attend the Three Hills Community Discovery Night. The scheduled date for the Discovery Night is Wednesday, September 4th, 2019 at the Three Hills Curling Rink from 5:30 to 7 o'clock p.m. So we're just looking for council to authorize the attendance of one of its members on that night, should council deem this to be something they'd like to attend.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. What's council's wishes? Councilor Penner.
I would move that council approve attendance, whoever's able to attend.
Okay. Do we need a specific person, or we'll just coordinate that as we go along, Mr. Hogan?
I think we'd be good to just coordinate that as we went along. So if that was the case, then council just be authorizing the attendance of a council representative.
Okay. All right, we have a motion before us.
I'll volunteer to attend the Community Discovery Night on September 4th.
Okay, well, Councilor King.
Just following up with you, Deb, was your intent that, were you interested in attending, or were you thinking that more than one council member would like to attend?
If more than one would like to attend, I think they're more than welcome. We'll have other discovery nights that we have to attend to. I don't think we should ever limit it, but, so yeah, if there's more than one, that is fine.
Okay, so we'll coordinate that before the date arrives, September the 4th.
Okay, so I was just attempting to clarify that the motion intended that there could be more than one.
Multiple, could be multiple. All righty. Is there any more discussion to that motion? Councilor McGee.
I agree that whoever would like to attend should. I also think we should keep a budget on that of how many we actually will pay to be attending. So that's what I understand the authorization is for, is about the budget, and I believe any more than two is beyond what the budget should be paying.
Councilor King.
Yeah, and my only response to that would be is if I attended the Discovery Night in Three Hills, you wouldn't be seeing it on my council claim anyway.
Okay, so are we good with the clarification? Is that a friendly amendment to your motion, Councilor Penner? Up to a maximum of 2 to attend? Would you accept that as a friendly motion or a friendly amendment?
I would accept that.
Okay. Okay. Are we good with the motion as, okay, we'll just wait until it's up. Okay, so the motion has been amended to read, Councilor Penner moved to authorize 2 council members to attend the 2019 Three Hills Discovery Night on September the 4th. Are we good with that motion? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And we will move on to 8.4, Intermunicipal Development Plan and ICF Framework, Starland. Welcome, Lori, and anytime you're ready.
Good morning, Reeve and Council. So the new Municipal Government Act requires all municipalities that share a common border to adopt an intermunicipal collaboration framework, or ICF, by April 1st, 2021 for rural-to-rural municipalities, including the creation and adoption of an intermunicipal development plan, or IDP. Municipalities are mandated to work together to adopt IDPs to promote consultation, coordination, and cooperation regarding planning matters of joint interest with a defined planning area, to provide a framework for addressing land use concerns with regard to joint planning matters, establish procedures for dealing with development proposals within a defined planning area, and address any other matters relating to a development considered necessary within a joint planning area. Municipalities are also mandated to work together to adopt an intermunicipal collaboration framework, or ICF, to identify those services provided by each municipality and those services being shared on an intermunicipal basis or by a third party. Identify those services best provided on a municipal, intermunicipal, or third-party basis. Services are those related to transportation, water and wastewater, solid waste, emergency services, recreation, and any other services where those services benefit residents in more than one of the municipalities that are parties to the framework. So that's kind of the background. The discussions under section 631, the minister may by order exempt one or more councils from the requirement to adopt an intermunicipal development plan, and the order may contain any terms or conditions that the minister considers necessary. As well, under section 780, the minister may also exempt one or municipalities from the requirement to create an ICF. Specifically, the borders between Starland County and Kneehill County is the Red Deer River. There are currently no shared services between the municipalities or the transportation corridors under municipal control. Development opportunities along the boundary are very limited, due to those lands being either controlled by the Crown, considered hazard lands, or provide no or very limited opportunity for development. Access is also often limited due to topography. The border between Stettler County and Kneehill County is comprised mostly of Dry Island Buffalo Jump Provincial Park. All other lands are considered Crown lands or lands with limited or no development potential or access. As well, there are no services that are shared between the two municipalities. Our current land use bylaw does require the county to notify adjacent landowners within a half-mile range of any proposed development or subdivision. This practice would continue regardless of an IDP in place. So our request to council is that council requests the Minister of Municipal Affairs consider granting an exemption under section 631 and 780 of the Municipal Government Act for the requirement of Kneehill County and Stettler County, as well as Kneehill County and Starland County, to complete an intermunicipal development plan and intermunicipal collaborative framework. And I do have a couple of maps, if that kind of helps kind of show the boundaries of where we're at. So this is the one for Starland County, and you can see on the top corner there, the boundary is mostly, there's a little bit of Crown land in the dark green. Ah, thank you, Carolyn. And the lighter green part is Buffalo Jump. So it is mostly comprised. The two white areas there that you do see would be considered the lands, and they have limited to no access. And then if we look down at the next map, this is the boundary between Starland County and Kneehill County. And I know it's a little bit larger scale here, so, but any of the green lands that you can see here that are identified on the boundary, those are crown lands, hazard lands, so they, very difficult to develop on the development along the border, which is the river. And I can add one more thing too to this. Starland County has already considered the discussion point here, and their council has provided a motion that we pursue this with the minister.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Are there any questions to the presenter? Councillor Christie.
On Dry Island Park, we have no financial commitment there at all. That's provincial park, so that's totally out of our,
Yes, through the reeve. You're absolutely correct, Councillor Christie. We have no jurisdiction there or responsibility. Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. All goes together.
So if we're looking at the county of Stettler, it looks like we've got half a mile basically that we share between them that are in the white zone. Am I
Yeah.
correct in that?
I would say that's absolutely correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Lori? Or what is council's wishes here? Councillor King.
I think it's a reasonable request that we follow through on, and so I'd make the motion that we do make that request to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and that he consider granting an exemption for the requirement of Kneehill County and Stettler County, as well as Kneehill and Starland, to complete a IDP and an ICF.
Could we encompass that, both counties in the same motion, or should we have two motions with, separately? What is the recommendation from administration?
Our recommendation would be to do them separately, because we'll have to make the application separately. So we
Okay.
can attach each motion to each one.
Okay, so then I'll make the motion regarding the Kneehill County and Stettler County. So request the Minister of Affairs consider granting an exemption under section 631 and 780 for Kneehill County and Stettler County to complete intermunicipal development plan and the intermunicipal collaborative framework agreements.
Okay, thank you, Councillor King. We have a motion before us. Is there any discussion to that motion? And I would support your motion. That half mile is, yeah, it's a lot of work to go ahead and do this, and cost. If there's no more discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion? And that is carried unanimously. How would we like to deal with Starland County here? Councillor Penner.
I'll make the same motion to the minister to do with Starland County, as it's a defined boundary, and
Okay, thank you. We have the motion on screen. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is also carried unanimously. Thank you. Boy, too bad we couldn't do that with the other 8. We will move on to 8.5. Village of Linden request. Mr. Hogan, please.
This is a follow-up to the requests that council's previously discussed, both at council and at committee of the whole. So the Village of Linden is requesting $200,000 to help assist with the cost of a master infrastructure plan and for other infrastructure projects requiring attention. The county did provide the village with $200,000 in funding at the June 12th, 2018 council meeting for infrastructure projects, with the funds to come from the contingency reserve fund. Council previously discussed this item and requested additional information from the Village of Linden. I followed up with my counterpart there and did receive the answers to that. So namely, council wanted some assurance that if some funding was provided, the project would move forward in a timely manner. It was also discussed that if funding was provided, that it be conditional on the county having access to the data and the finished project. The village has indicated that the project would move forward and take about a year to complete. There's a lot of work that goes into these, so that it's long, but it's not undue as far as these things go. The other answer to access to the data, I actually received an email yesterday. So after this RFD was put together, the village has discussed it. They have no issues with us having access to the finished report. There is value in this project to both the village and the county. Administration notes that if the funding in this project is approved for one of the urban centers, you may be setting a precedence. And this was part of council's previous discussion, is that if the other urban centers came forward with a request like this, if we funded one, it's probably fair to do more. The motion that we're recommending, again, based on previous discussion, is that council grant the village of Linden 50% funding to a maximum of $112,500 for development of a master infrastructure plan with funds to come from transfers to governments, contingent upon the project moving forward and the county having access to the resulting data/plan. So what this means is that we would fund 50% of it up to a maximum dollar amount. If the entire project costs, say, $150,000 instead of $225,000, we'd only be funding $75,000. So we're in for 50, and we put a cap on the actual dollars that 50 can represent, is the recommendation we're making. The second motion that's there is just the accounting side of the equation, where you're making a transfer from an area of the budget that funding wasn't included in the budget for. The second motion is just to make the auditors happy that we've transferred money from reserve to that area of the budget so that it's all balanced.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hogan. Are there any questions for Mr. Hogan? I would be looking for a motion if someone chooses to. Councillor McGee?
A motion that we grant the Village of Linden 50% funding to a maximum of $112,500 for the development of master infrastructure plan with funds to come from transfers to governments, contingent upon the project moving forward and the county having access to the resulting data and plan.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Along with this request for decision, we will also need to transfer some funds. Is anybody? Councillor King.
I'd make the motion that council direct administration to transfer the $112,500 from the contingency reserve to transfers to government.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing not, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And the motion is carried. Okay. We will move on to 8.6, the request from Lac St. Anne County. Mr. Hogan.
So included in council's package is a letter from Reeve Joe Blakeman of Lac St. Anne County. The Lac St. Anne County is proposing the development of a type of rural caucus consisting of Alberta's rural municipalities. The stated goal from the letter is a group would be working with the MLAs to ensure that they understand the issues facing rural Alberta. The letter also states that the group does not intend to circumvent the RMA, so the Rural Municipalities of Alberta. The invitation is for 2 attendees from the county to attend. Some of the additional background is the county through the RMA is already part of a lobby group that represents rural Alberta, and the RMA also has an existing relationship with the province. So administratively, we're uncertain what value another group would have given the existence of the RMA and the county's own ability to engage with its local MLAs. That being said, if this is something council wanted to attend just to see what they were proposing, you absolutely have that option. You're able to opt to do that, or you can decline the invitation and just sit back and see what comes out of their initial meeting, and if that's a direction that we want to jump on board with later or not, or you can just receive this as information. So the only costs associated with this right now would of course be travel and honorariums if we were to attend the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hogan. And I would agree with your synopsis. I really don't want to dilute our RMA association by forming another another group. We already have relationships with our MLAs through RMA and through our own counties, so I don't know how much good this group would do. But we can always join it if, in the future, if something should come up with it, so. Is there any other discussion to this proposal from council or questions for Mr. Hogan? Councillor Christie.
I believe we have a strong communication network now, so I'll move that we decline the invitation at this time.
Okay, we've got a motion before us to decline the invitation to join. Is there any discussion to that motion? Would it be appropriate to say at this point in time, in our letter back to them? Would that be a friendly amendment to your motion, Councillor Christie?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to leave us completely out of it. I would like to have the opportunity if something should happen in the future and this becomes a viable group, working group. Is there any discussion to the amendment, Councillor King?
Well, I don't know if I have any discussion directly related to the amendment, but in light of the conversation or the conference call we were on this morning, it's important that each of us take the responsibility to be talking to our rural MLAs. And so in our case, to our friend over on the west line, and we need to be letting him know that we have issues and what those issues are. So, and I think Nathan would be more than receptive to that. So just to encourage us not to let the ball drop, I guess.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Councillor King. As that was a friendly amendment, we don't have to vote on the amendment, but we do have a motion before us to decline the invitation at this point in time. And is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing as not, I will call the question. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. 8.7, authorization to attend municipal affairs invitation. Mike and I were invited up. Well, okay, we'll call it an invitation. On the Friday of the long weekend, I think I got the email around 10:30, 11 in the evening for the meeting on July the 2nd, 2019 at the Ledge. Because it was such short notice, I was hoping that we would have some authorization to attend for Mike and I and to cover the costs of attending that meeting. Are there any questions from council? We will be having the discussion later on in our in-camera session about the information that was provided to us through that meeting. And it's Municipal Affairs Info, Section 16. What's council's wishes? Councillor King.
I'd be willing to make the motion to authorize your attendance and that of Mike's to the meeting on July 2nd.
Okay, we have a motion before us to authorize the attendance. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. How about if we have a break? Okay, I call a recess. down to council and committee reports. We have a couple committee of the whole report and Canadian Badlands. Are there any questions, concerns, discussion? Councillor Christie.
I'll make the motion to receive the council committee reports as presented.
Motion's been made to receive as presented. All those in favor? That is carried. We will now go on to council follow-up action list. Looks like it's, a fair amount of it has been completed. Are there any comments, questions, concerns, discussion? Councillor King.
I'd make the motion that council receive the July 16th council follow-up action list as presented.
Okay, motion's been made to receive as for information. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. We will now, if that's all the business that we have at hand, we will now move into closed session. Would someone like to make a motion to move us into closed session? Councillor King.
So moved.
Motion's been made to move into closed session. All those in favor? Okay, we're back on the air. Okay, we've allowed the gallery to come back in. There are no motions coming out of closed session. So I will adjourn the meeting at 11:55, or 11:51, sorry. Thank you, everybody.